Hey everyone, and welcome to Lobby Talks by Atolo. My name's James Lemon, the founder of Atolo, and I'm delighted to have you guys with us today, whether you're watching live or watching back on demand. Lobby Talks is an event that we put together really to showcase leaders from around the industry, many of whom mentor with Atolo, and just kind of break down some of the myths about leadership and careers in hospitality, giving people a chance to see that there's a huge diverse world of opportunities out there. There's some really interesting roles, and there's some fantastic and fun people who do them. Just a word to say, we launched our mentoring pledge just about a week ago. If you want to take part in Atolo mentoring, we're seeking to create the world's biggest hospitality mentoring pledge. We're over halfway to our £200,000 mentoring target. If you want to join, go to marriottatolo.com/mentors, where you can find all about mentoring at Atolo. But let's crack on, because we like to keep things fast and sharp here at Lobby Talks. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thanks, James. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you here. Great to have you here. So, Joe, before we get stuck into your career, and it's an exciting one, I know, as you probably know, in Lobby Talks, we're not meeting in, spare bedrooms and home offices. We're meeting in an exciting lobby where we wish we could be seeing the best of hospitality and sharing a drink. So let's get started. Where are we meeting today?
This one is the lobby of Courtyard in Seattle, downtown Lake Union.
Okay, sounds good. What brings us here on this fine Thanksgiving day?
Well, so this is actually the first hotel where I started my career as a part-time front desk agent. And unlike most Courtyards, this one had 250 rooms, so it was actually quite big for being a Courtyard. It's usually a limited service hotel, but it had this beautiful bar that led into a full-service restaurant. And out through the windows, you could see seaplanes landing and taking off in Lake Union. So it was just, an amazing place. But unfortunately, when I worked there, there was kind of an extended period of lobby renovation. So about 2 months into my job, if I recall correctly, because this is now like 17 years ago, the lobby was beautiful, but then I had to spend maybe the next 8 months working there under the construction site of the lobby. And then before it was finished, I left the hotel and I moved to Las Vegas. And so I never actually got the chance to see that lobby. And again, this is 17 years ago, so I'm sure whatever they did back then, there have been a few more renovations after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, as soon as, we're talking about, which lobby do you want to go to? And if I could pick any hotel lobby, I want to go back there to see what it looks like now.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious, Joe. So actually, you spent all your time making excuses for this lobby, and people are like,
Yes.
"Oh, where can we sit? Where do we sit?" You're just trying to figure that out. That's brilliant. Well, look, great to be here virtually, even though you never made it in person, and it sounds like a cool spot as well. So, what would we typically be drinking as we sit back on these leather sofas and share some time together?
Well, unfortunately, so this is probably the one flaw that I have working in the hospitality. That I don't actually drink any alcohol. And so I couldn't really answer you on what would be drinking other than a couple really nice ice cold Diet Coke.
Perfect. Well, look,
my favorite soft drink.
I think we're all more like conservative around kind of lifestyles and mental health now. So I think it's absolutely fine. I'm a big fan of no alcohol beers myself, but Seattle's the home to great coffee, right? Seattle's kind of the home of Starbucks and many a micro roastery. So I'm sure you guys did a mean line in coffees.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true. You know what they say about Seattle? The reason why we call it a sleepless nights in Seattle, and it's because everybody's drunk on caffeine.
I'm sure that's right. Fab. Well, look, let's grab some time together. We love to look behind the scenes of the industry and definitely want to get to know you properly. So, we've obviously met a couple of times. I'm always really impressed by the huge role that you play at YOTEL. But fascinating, as you say, that you started kind of working in hotels. So we set the challenge to all of our guests. Can you outline your career in 60 seconds? You feeling up for the challenge, Joe?
I can try.
Go for it.
So I actually started working, as I said, working the front desk agent in Courtyard. I was a part-time there while I was going to college. And I actually never really knew what I wanted to do in life going to college. And so actually working at the front desk, I think I kind of found my calling in hospitality. So after working there for about 8 or 9 months, I decided to move my school and change the major to hotel management and move to Las Vegas. And while I was studying hotel management at UNLV, worked in various different hotels. So I started at the Residence Inn. Actually, my company was gracious enough to just transfer me to another hotel. But then I got to kind of work my way up into more bigger and more full service hotel settings. So there I worked at the Renaissance Hotel, which was the biggest non-gaming hotel in Nevada at the time, and eventually worked in at the Palms Casino, which is a casino hotel. And if you're in Vegas, you always dream about working at a casino hotel, right, with thousands of bedrooms. And so, and then I took a brief time off to start a company, which actually didn't go very well. That was at around 2007, 2008 time, but eventually got back to the industry with Expedia. Expedia had a big regional office in Las Vegas. So I worked in the market management there, looking after all non-Nevada gaming markets like Atlantic City. And then I eventually then moved on to looking after a small portfolio of select service hotels, again in operations. So right up until now, apart from Expedia, I've been in basically hotel management, front office, back office, GM, and so on. Until I was eventually got the opportunity to move to the UK and build and head up the e-commerce function at a portfolio of hotels that Starwood Capital Group was building out here in the UK. And so which grew to be eventually a collection of 55 luxury hotels. Then I formally joined Starwood Cap in London to look after the revenue performance of all of our owned hotels in Europe and Asia, which happens to be my current role. And within that role, I also head up the commercial functions for YOTEL, which is one of the Starwood's investments. So I don't know how I did on time there, but I tried to rush through as fast as I could.
I think you know, Joe. I think you know. So we were chatting quietly before we came on. I said, not everyone sticks to the 60 seconds, but you just took that as an invite, didn't you? Just talk as long as you want there.
I just went for it.
There's a lot to cover there. It's amazing that, people talk about these portfolio careers, right? Where at one time you can be doing 2 or 3 different roles. I sometimes feel a bit like I'm doing that too. You don't often see many people doing that, but in these kind of senior exec roles. But you seem to manage to bridge both nicely. You've got this portfolio company role, but actually you can get really stuck into the exec team of a hotel chain as well, which must be nice to kind of shake up your week like that.
Yeah, and they're quite different roles as well. So obviously when you sit at the kind of the asset management side, you're obviously not driving the bus yourself, right? Mm-hmm. You're kind of this, you play more of an advisory role to the management team and representing the ownership. But, while you're in kind of the portfolio, kind of the management role at YOTEL, you actually get to drive the bus yourself. And fortunately, I was, given the opportunity to do that rather than kind of staying on the sidelines and still advising. I was just given the opportunity, hey, if you want to drive the bus, you go ahead and drive the bus. And I said, all right, I'll drive the bus. So
no, that's cool. That's cool. Well, look, I think the ownership space, investment space is something that people really want to know a lot more about. So we'll definitely come back to that before the end of our time with you. But I definitely want to keep things moving. So our next section is called Good Day, Bad Day. And we know that some of the best ways to showcase this industry is talk about its highs and lows. So would love you to take us through some of the highs and low days of your career, if you could.
Sure. And I mean, as I'm sure you're aware, there have been a lot of good days, right? But if I had to just pick one, it probably was the day that we launched a new brand in the UK. It was called Principal Hotels. So when I first moved out here in the UK, probably spent the first couple of years in a lot of turmoil, right? Like we were buying hotels and then we were selling hotels and we were adding hotels that actually didn't quite fit with the existing portfolio of hotels and so on. And after a couple of years of that, we finally kind of it kind of grew to well over 50 hotels in the UK, and launching that principal brand was kind of the moment that we could finally, market those hotels with, consistent kind of branding and identity. And it just really kind of felt like that epitome and kind of the end goal that we were all running towards. And it just felt like it was kind of, one of the most rewarding experiences that I've had. Yeah. I still remember while everybody in the company were out in Manchester, having the brand launch party, hosting all kinds of celebrities and like influencers over and having a good time and counting down the clock to the date to the time the new brand is launching. But me and a host of other colleagues had to stay behind to launch our new website so that it goes live without any problem right at midnight.
Yeah.
And but it was a real proud moment, and even to this day, even though I missed the party, it's probably one of the best days of my career.
Hey, I've often been the guy that's behind the scenes making things work. So I remember in my early days, it'd be these huge parties, right? That's what people are in this business for, right? It's these experiences, these events. You always be behind the scenes making sure things didn't fall over. So yeah, I definitely empathize there. So tell me, what was the one big lesson you learned from that you pass on? What is it about a big project like a brand launch that you would kind of recommend people definitely do and repeat what you did as a leader?
Well, I mean, I just think that if there are anything that you think is making a fundamental change to break the mold of how things have always been done, I mean, I think those are the types of projects and opportunities that you have to jump on, right? And so, and I'm sure everybody has this experience of, oh, why do we do it this way? Well, it's always been done this way, and therefore we continue to do it. But then every now and then, either you get to be the guy who says, oh, we should do things differently, and this is how, or somebody makes that decision and you get to participate in that journey. And I think those are the ones that are not only the hardest, but certainly the most rewarding to go through and actually see the change afterwards.
Yeah, and you learn a huge amount during that process as well, right? I think everyone should definitely be asking their leaders and their bosses, say, hey, actually, I'd love to start a small project about something, whether that be sustainability or talent or community. There's always space in hotels, I think, to take on these small change projects. It sounds like you had a big one on your hands, but as you say, that's when you really learn the most. Awesome. Well, look, switching slightly, maybe you could take us through a bad day for you.
And again, there have been many, many bad days as well. But
this is like therapy for you.
Our job so interesting, right?
Yeah.
But if I had to pick one, it's from the earlier days in my career when I was working as an assistant hotel manager at the Palms in Las Vegas. So I was the manager in duty for an overnight shift. And in Vegas, every night brings some new drama. But this particular night wasn't really going well for me. We were, if I remember correctly, we were very short-staffed at the front desk with lots of remaining arrivals at the front desk, and because lots of call-offs and whatnot. But my radio was just going off the hook with all kinds of issues, ranging from the guests, peeing in the elevator to like noise complaints. Just all kinds of stuff happening. And this was just going to be a very long night. Then as I stood behind the front desk to check for any, late night arrivals, and I just happened to look at the watch or the time on the bottom right-hand corner of the computer screen. Mm-hmm. I saw the time was right at 2:59, and so I'm thinking, oh, all right, well, at least I feel like I'm about halfway home here. It's gonna be good that people are going to bed. Then as I was thinking that, I see the time from 2:59, and it changes to 2 a.m. instead of 3 a.m.
Oh my goodness.
And I remember getting so upset. But it was the day. It was the day where the daylight savings time.
Okay, yeah, the clock changed. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the time changed, and I have never seen the actual time change in action, where the time goes from 2:59, and instead of going to 3, it goes to 2. And I remember getting so mad, and I still like that. The emotion that I was feeling that night with everything else that I was just dealing with, I still remember that day being very bad day for me.
So you're already having all these horrific events, just trying to get through it minute by minute, and then suddenly there's this whole extra hour of nightmares you've got to deal with. Oh man, that sounds good.
Exactly.
So I guess no one went to bed quite on time that night. No, fantastic. And I guess, do you think those tough times will always be part of kind of a hospitality career? I think there is this sense that some jobs in hospitality are tough, and it's almost like a rite of passage. You got to go through some tough times to build those leadership skills and to grow. Do you think, in hindsight, that'll always be part of a hospitality journey, or do you think we're working to make things a little bit easier for our staff?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just part of the job, right? And I don't know if this is exclusive to our industry, but I mean, I think hospitality industry throws in different dynamics to the mix. But I actually think anybody who, especially the leaders who grow anybody who grows into any leadership positions in hospitality had to have gone through a lot of these tough moments to get there, because you have to build empathy with everyone that are working in your company who are actually going through a lot of this on a day-to-day basis. And like you say, it's kind of a rite of passage thing, I think. And I think that's also what builds trust between the leadership and everyone else, that, oh, I know you've gone through this before, and that's how you're also able to kind of mentor them and coach them through these tough moments. Look, not everything is bad, right? But I think it's actually these moments you could also look back and say, yeah, I've had these crazy stories. I mean, I'm sure everyone in hotel industry have some crazy stories at the hotels that they worked out of. And I think it might seem bad at the time, but could also be a fun story to tell later down the line.
I think that has to be the case, right? The faster that these terrible stories become fun stories, the more we can embrace them. But I also think it's interesting, like, we are just an industry that you have to have some resilience, right? You just have to have a bit of stuff knocking you down and knowing how to pick yourself back up, partly with a great team, partly with a sense of humor, and partly knowing that, generally the good times outweigh the bad. But yeah, there's definitely some rough rides. Really interesting. Thanks for sharing, Joe. Some personal stories there, some unhappy memories to dig up for us, but appreciate it. So look, our next section is called Last Day on Earth. And, we're not too morbid, but we love to kind of showcase just the best of hospitality that people's mind. We've had so many varied answers, but I'd love you to take us through, a hotel, a restaurant, an event that would be part of your kind of last 24 hours, if that was all you had left. Where would you take us first?
Yeah, so I think it's been a long time since I left Las Vegas, but I lived there for about 5 years. And I think if it was my last day on Earth, I think that is probably where I would want to go back to. I have a lot of fond memories of the place. And so the hotel that I would choose is actually Palazzo at the Venetian. Again, first of all, I love Vegas, but secondly, that's like an all-suite product. So you get a good room, sizable room, and it's really nice. And it's a little bit actually quieter than the main tower at the Venetian, so I like that a lot. But I would, and again, I'm a simpleton when it comes to some of this stuff. So I would just go probably over to the buffet at Wynn Las Vegas, where they have these amazing seafood offerings on their lineup, and they have these king crab legs that are like sliced in half, so it's super easy for you to eat them without having to cracking them open and making a mess out of yourself. And so I'll probably gorge on that as my last supper. And I love magic shows. I even though I know it's completely fake and there's no real magic involved, it's so fun trying and figure out what trickery is happening behind the scenes, still not getting it, and completely be wowed by what I just saw.
Yeah.
So if David Copperfield's still around, then I'd love to go see his show.
Awesome.
As part of my last day.
Perfect. So all condensed into Vegas. That's brilliant. Like, that's super easy to fit in. But tell me, what, for those of us people that haven't been, or maybe not been for a couple of years, what is it about the magic of Vegas that makes it kind of probably the world's #1 hospitality destination? Because you spent a long time there, so maybe you could unpick that for us as someone who's probably seen it from in front of and behind the curtain.
Sure. Well, I think so. For me, because I'm a hotelier, and assuming everyone watching this show are also hoteliers and or wanting to get into it, there is no place like Vegas in terms of just the sheer size and the scale of the hospitality um, out there, right? And so I think if I remember this correctly, and don't quote me on this, but it was true back in those days. But you could take like a corner of where MGM Grand is and take all the room counts of those just that corner. It had more rooms than the entire city of San Francisco. That's how big. Like you could pick 4 hotels in Vegas. It had more rooms than all the hotels in the city of San Francisco, and that is amazing. If you go there and see these hotels that are just gigantic. I mean, it might actually be like a half a mile stretch or a mile stretch to get to from one end of the hotel to the other. That's when like you're in, you can really geek out as a hotelier of everything that you're seeing. So I think that is probably the biggest draw for me. And then and again, I'm not a gambler. I don't drink. I don't party. But even for me, it has everything that I'd want. Amazing world-class food, world-class shows, and entertainment. It has great shopping for my wife and everyone else who likes that kind of stuff. And it has great attractions, often free, but also within just a short minute drive, you're out in the wild where you could go to Hoover Dam, Grand Canyon, or maybe do some hiking in Red Rock canyons. There's all sorts of ATVs and like skydiving. I mean, there's just so many activities that you can do just using Vegas as your base camp. So yeah, I really love Vegas. I think it offers so much, and everything is new relatively as well. And so if you haven't been, you should definitely check it out.
Yeah, I just had one trip there, and it was really short and it was really intense. But exactly as you say, around every corner, there's something new and there's something energetic. And anyone who knows me, when I go to a city, I like to try as much as possible. So Vegas just exhausted me, from the kind of the roller coasters on the New York hotel to the dueling piano bars. There's just always something going on that you just would in any other city would blow your mind. But in Vegas, it's kind of every 30 minutes there's something new. So yeah, I think fantastic. It'd be great to see. I guess it's kind of the city that never stopped, really. I think the energy's back as far as I can tell post-pandemic. So definitely one for the wish list.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, look, I mean, sadly, we're kind of nearing the end of our time together. Our last section we call the guest book. Now, it's a little bit old-fashioned, but you'd always write a review when you leave a hotel. So, think about it as a career guest book, Joe. You've had this varied career. You've touched on operations. You're now in a role which is much more about investments and performance. I think a lot of people probably look at that as something that feels like, the dark arts and a bit magical. But maybe you could share some wisdom and kind of help people who are coming on up behind you through the industry.
Yeah, and I think we touched on it earlier a little bit, but the world of hospitality offers so many different like disciplines and functions within this industry, right? There is, even at the single hotel level, you have like, the guest service, the rooms management, security, finance, marketing, sales, revenue, and on and on. No matter where your interest lies, there's always a department or a function that could, really satisfy your itch. And so I think a lot of times people think, oh, what's a hotel management? You're going to go and, check people in and clean the rooms. But it's literally a single hotel is a complete business on its own. And so you can almost look at a hotel being an individual company that needs to be run. So I think, if whatever your interest lies, I think you can find a role within hospitality that you're going to love. And secondly, I think, you've always got to have that mindset of always learning, right? So I think looking back in my career, I was fortunate to be able to, kind of come out of the hotel operations and then was able to go to above property into more of a corporate role. And when I look back how I was able to achieve that, it was because of my side hustle knowledge. And by that, what I mean is I've always had an interest in coding and website development, and always had side gigs, even as I was working full time at hotels. The kind of the near 2-year stint that I had in starting a business in between my my hospitality career was also related to that. But it was that kind of side hustle knowledge that actually gave me the opportunity to move to the UK and actually formally step into more of a brand corporate role where I could focus on e-commerce and distribution and revenue management versus hotel operations. So if you have any other interest that maybe lies a little bit beyond hotel management, there might be an opportunity for you to use it within your current environment and actually add more value, or certainly make yourself more valuable to the company.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably all I would say. It's just stay curious and always be learning.
No, I love that. I love that. I think there's a real theme emerging, isn't there? Because you've got this sense of you need to ask for projects, right? The only way to move around a hotel is to ask for it. I love your point about, it's a whole business and there's 10, 15 functions happening. But I wonder if people sometimes feel a bit locked in, like, hey, I'm in this function, and if they want someone else for my boss, they'll probably hire in, or if there's someone in a different department. There's been a real groundswell of cross-training, hasn't there, over the last 18 months, which I think we need to keep up. But I think it probably falls to the individuals, if the bosses aren't creating the space, to put your hand up and say, I'd like to try something different. And I love the idea that it creates side hustles. And actually, we talk a lot about a side hustle culture right now. Maybe people writing blogs or learning how to code, like you're talking about. But creating side hustles within your work is a really interesting idea, right? Maybe you can start a sustainability committee. Maybe you could kind of get in with the revenue management team, start looking at what data sources they might be looking at, or what's going on with web performance. I think this idea you can put your hand up and ask for interesting projects is a really cool one. And clearly kind of stood you in good stead, which is great. What was it you think that worked well just before you shifted functions? What was it that you were typically doing that took you from one interesting role to another? Because I think a lot of people maybe do feel like these career pathways aren't so obvious. So you've obviously got something right there.
Yeah, and I don't even know if I know the answer to that myself, really, or maybe hopefully. Maybe my other colleagues and my former mentors might know that, might have a better answer than I do. But I actually think, and I'm not really trying to plug what you guys are doing with the whole mentorship or not. But in my 17-year hotel career, I had a very consistent mentors in my career. So even looking back in the last maybe 10 years of my career, I've worked with one mentor. Wow. Basically him and I moved around, and he's the guy that brought me to the UK. His name is Ash Kapoor, now a CEO at InTown. And then prior to that, when I was in Vegas, I had a great mentor. My boss, the hotel manager, his name was Michael Volk. And we worked together at the Renaissance and the Palms, and after that. And so I think sometimes it's just really about demonstrating your commitment, and also having that kind of mentor who recognizes, hey, Joe is good at doing this, but I think he's probably smart enough if I just put him there and do that, even though he hasn't had any experience doing it yet. Yeah. Maybe I believe that he'll do well with the right mentorship and coaching. And I think I probably got lucky there, but I guess this is kind of why we're here, right? To be able to replicate and give that back to the next generation of hoteliers who I got that benefit. Time to give back.
Yeah, and remove that luck as well. I think so much of people's careers to date have depended on your boss, right? And if that person isn't giving you the inspiration, the options, the self-development, I think people just drift away from the industry, right? You just never find that passion. And I think having someone to kind of point you in the right direction. And obviously with Atollo, not everyone's mentor is their boss. In fact, that's almost never the case. But I think even just giving you the strength, right? Saying, actually, you know what, Joe, I think you have some skills in this area. You've obviously got a passion for it. Go and ask for something, right? Just giving that kind of, even if your boss isn't giving it to you, go and ask the next person. And tell them what you want, I think is a big part of this. So yeah, well, we could do a whole half hour on mentorship and why Atollo exists, but thanks for putting it in there without any prompting at all. So that does unfortunately bring us firmly screeching to the end of our time together, Joe. But I just want to say it's been an absolute delight to meet you. Obviously, it's budget season. You've got a huge responsibility with all these different hotels around the world. So we really appreciate you taking the time to mentor with Atollo, to come and chat to us on Lobby Talks today. It's been ace having you here and hearing some of your stories.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a pleasure being here. Thanks for having me again.
No, all good. Don't forget to join our mentor pledge if you haven't already. So, and then for those watching, really excited to continue Lobby Talks. We're back again next Tuesday with Kat Pengelly. Kat is the epitome of a hustle career. She has had a portfolio of roles across events and content and marketing and hospitality. Always a delight. Get a load of energy from chatting with Kat. So I know that'll be fantastic. That's Tuesday lunchtime UK time, 12:30 on Tuesday the 30th. In the meantime, please join Atollo. It's myatollo.com. It's completely free for anyone in the industry to join. Access connections, mentoring, learn from your peers is what it is all about. Come and join our mentoring pledge if you've got a little bit of experience behind you. We're looking for people who can give back to the industry and share what they know. Let's make it so that everyone has access to great leadership and great mentorship, exactly as Joe said. So one more time, please, thank you, Joe, for joining us today. It's been fab to have you here. And we'll see you all sometime soon. I'll see you on Atollo. Thank you very much for attending and take care. Stay safe. Bye-bye.